What are the greatest comic books of all time? I'll give you my take through the GOAT pyramid. You might be thinking, this dude is going to pick his favorite random books to stop right there. For a book to make it on the pyramid, it must perform well on one or more of the following criteria. Historical significance, current value, popularity of character or characters across time, and cover art. Hi, I'm Keston. Welcome to my channel. Only 30 comics make my GOAT pyramid. We'll start with the pool for consideration. The representation is thinner for more recent books and the thickest for the older books. In fact, there's no modern book on the list. Not valuable enough relative to the other books and not enough time to judge historical significance. Among the Copper Age, only 2 are up for consideration. Gobbledygook 1 gets cut. It's an expensive book. It is so crazy rare. While it does feature an ad for TMNT 1, but it's TMNT 1 that is the true gem. It's still quite valuable and introduces characters that have remained consistently popular over 40 years. 2 books make the pyramid from the Bronze Age, and they aren't ASM 129 or Marvel Spotlight number 5. They just don't have enough juice. The 35-cent variant of Star Wars number 1 gets in on account of its value and the popularity of the characters. And while it's not the first variant, it's the variant that has most caught the imagination of collectors. The other book, and the first to reach the 3rd level, is Hulk 181, the first appearance of Wolverine. Unlike the other books on this list, Hulk 181 isn't even close to being scarce, but the demand for the book is so high, the book is still expensive. The cover art is sweet, and Wolverine is easily a top 5 superhero of all time. My God, when I was growing up, it seemed like every other Marvel book on the newsstand featured a Wolverine crossover. And today, he's made that crossover from comic books to movies and is one of the top box office draws. Moving on to the Silver Age. Now we'll start to see a lot more representation on the pyramid. Perching on the 5th rung are 6 Silver Age books. The one you might not know is Zap Comics number 1. It came out in 1967 and is often credited as the biggest underground comics key. Be warned, it's not for dim juveniles. Next up are 2 important books from 1966, and they are from the same series. Fantastic Four 48, first appearance of Silver Surfer and Galactus, and Fantastic Four 52, the first appearance of Black Panther. I can't believe I'm putting the next 2 on the 5th rung. 2 enormous books. Tales of Suspense 39, the first Iron Man, and Journey into Mystery 83, the first Thor. We also have 1 team represented, the first Justice League of America in Brave and the Bold 28. Let's move up a rung and we'll talk about a couple teams. X-Men 1 earns a spot here, such a popular series and the first appearance of a host of well-known superheroes. This next pick might be controversial. We're talking about Avengers 1. 15 years ago, I'm not sure Avengers would have made it on the list at all, but the MCU has put the Avengers front and center with popular culture, thus earning its place alongside X-Men 1. It's time to pop up to the 3rd level, and the Silver Age books are epic. Here we have the second most valuable Silver Age book, A Man, or Is He a Monster, that has embodied a singular emotion better than any other character. The emotion is anger, and the character is the Incredible Hulk. Historically speaking, the 2 most important Silver Age books are also here. Fantastic Four number 1 from 1961, the debut of this famous foursome and the book that truly launched the Marvel era of comics. You might have guessed the next book, Showcase number 4, the first appearance of the Silver Age Flash and the issue that is credited with launching the Silver Age. A reinvented Flash showed the world was once again ready for superheroes. Let's move on to the Golden Age. Oh, hold on, you might have realized I left out a certain teenager who can stick to walls, sense danger before it happened, and learn responsibility the hard way. The Silver Age crown jewel is none other than Amazing Fantasy number 15, the first appearance of Spider-Man, which deserves a spot on the 2nd level, or what I call the Mount Rushmore of comics. Yeah, this book in mid-grade is not as expensive as the others on this tier, but in high grade, it hangs with the best of them. A 9.6 copy sold for $3.6 million a few years ago. Now let's move on to the Golden Age comic books, the era that brought superheroes into our culture. On the 5th tier, we have 2 historic books. Today, it's common to see superheroes fight. Superman fights Batman, or Cap and Iron Man get into it. The first such battle occurred in Marvel Mystery Comics number 9 way back in 1940 and featured the epic battle between the Torch and Subby. Pre-code horror fans will be delighted with my next pick. In the early 50s, comic books took a dark turn. Violent images and gruesome stories became more and more popular. Parents and Congress pushed back and the comic book code was created, which almost killed the genre altogether. And perhaps no other book symbolizes this era more than Crime Suspense Stories number 22. Tier 4, we've got some bangers here, and we'll start with another 22, Pep Comics number 22. Yeah, this is a superhero book, but it's here because of a non-superhero that first appears inside, our friend Archie Andrews. With only 32 copies graded by CGC, this is the rarest book on the pyramid. All-Star Comics boasts 2 books on this row. Number 3 features the first ever superhero team, the Justice Society of America. And a few issues later at number 8, the first Wonder Woman. I would have liked to place AS number 8 higher, but the book doesn't feature Wonder Woman on the cover. That first happens in Sensation Comics number 1. Next is the first appearance of Captain Marvel in Wiz Comics 2-1. The candle for this book hasn't consistently burned bright, but at its peak, there was no comic hotter. Yes, Captain Marvel was the biggest selling comic book in the most important decade, the 1940s, and it deserves a spot here. The last book on this row may be the most controversial. There's no big first appearance, but what it lacks in substance, it certainly more than makes up for in style. We're talking about Detective Comics number 31. Many people consider it to be the best cover of all the Golden Age. And to me, there's no other image that best represents the Dark Knight aspect of Batman. I've tried to tell many collectors about this book, but it goes in one ear and out the other. Let's move up to the third tier. We've got 2 expensive, huge books. All-American Comics 16, Green Lantern's debut, and Flash Comics number 1, the debut of Golden Age Flash and Hawkman to boot. Let's swing on back to Mount Rushmore. What books will join Spidey? Here's the book I had trouble with. I almost put it a tier lower. Superman number 1. Yes, it does have a lot going for it. It's widely regarded as the 3rd most valuable comic book, and it is the first issue in Superman's own series. And it does have a pretty sweet classic cover. So Keston, what's the knock against it? Little new material. Most of what's in Superman number 1 are stories told in early Action Comics. Ultimately, I decided to keep Sup 1 on Mount Rushmore. Here's why. Not only is it the first time that Superman appeared in his own series, it's the first time that any comic book hero appeared in their own series. I guess you could call it a giant leap for comic book kind. Next up is Batman number 1. It's similar to Sup's 1 in qualification. It's the first Batman comic book in his own series, but not his first appearance. The difference is that there are some other first appearances, including the Joker, probably the best known supervillain there is, and don't forget about the Catwoman. Do you know what Mount Rushmore is missing? A healthy dose of patriotism. Naturally, this character's first appearance belongs here. The Shield, the Fighting Yank, the Fighting American, Uncle Sam. Good Lord, there were a ton of patriotic superheroes back in the 1940s. The one I'm talking about that belongs on Mount Rushmore is, of course, Captain America Comics number 1. The cover features Cap serving Hitler a knuckle sandwich. We've got 3 books left and some controversy. Y'all might have noticed that there's a level beyond Mount Rushmore, a level for the true GOAT. This has to go to Action Comics number 1, the first appearance of Superman and the book that introduced the world to superheroes. Deservedly, this book is pound for pound, grade for grade, the most expensive comic in the world. No duh, you might say, Keston, that's obvious. What's the controversy? I'm going to get to it. Let's go back to Mount Rushmore. We've got 2 obvious books left. Marvel Comics number 1, the original Marvel comic book that features the official first appearances of several characters, most notably the Human Torch and the Submariner. Next we have Detective Comics number 27, the first appearance of Batman, and the second most valuable comic book in the world. This is the problem with creating levels. Sometimes not all books are the same on the level. There's some that are a little stronger and some that are a little bit weaker. And as I look across Mount Rushmore, I see one book that just doesn't hang with the rest. Indeed, historically, Action Comics number 1 and Detective Comics number 27 have been 1 and 2, and there's been a huge drop off to 3. And that still holds true today. Further, Batman has been the character that has been a non-stop, ultra-popular character since 1939. The book may not be as historically significant as Action 1, but the character has proven to be more popular over time. So I'm going to do it. I'm putting Tech 27 on the top tier next to his good friend, Superman. Yeah, Tech 27 is more like a 1B than a true peer to Superman, but it feels better for me to put Tech 27 up there at the highest rung and not on Mount Rushmore. I'm guessing that there are quite a few of you out here that don't 100% agree with my GOAT pyramid. Well, here's your chance. In a follow-up video, I will feature the critiques, the suggestions that are most liked. So please leave me your critique or like the critiques you agree with in the comment box. By the way, if you enjoy the history of comics, you may be interested to learn how rarity and condition have changed over time, which you can check out in this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this in-depth analysis, consider subscribing, and I hope to see you around real soon.